Good morning from sunny, rainy Hong Kong Island. Today is the 6th of August, 2025, and you are listening to the Scenic Solidarities podcast. Welcome again to Scenic Solidarities, a podcast by the Southeast Asian chapter of the International Association of the Study of Popular Music, which is an organization dedicated to the academic study of popular music, short form IASPM. As I record this, the 2025 conference for IASPM-SEA is in full swing in Taipei, and Adil, the president of IASPM-SEA, has given me full permission to record this podcast completely unscripted, uncontrolled, and unhinged. So, hello there, I'm Jonathan Chen from Hong Kong, and I'm a member of IASPM-SEA, and this year I'm also a member of the huddle team that puts together the conference, even though I'm unfortunately unable to attend this year due to various schedule conflicts. For today's podcast, I am the host, the guest, and everyone in between, as I will basically interview myself about my own experiences with IASPM-SEA. And so just a little bit of basic background about myself. I'm actually a mixed race person, half Malaysian, half Scottish, but I was born in Hong Kong and grew up here, went to local school. I consider myself a Hong Konger, but being half Malaysian, we would visit Malaysia every year for the Lunar New Year holidays to, Bai Lian, as people would say. And so just a bit of background, again, about my music life, my music experiences. I started playing piano at the age of, I think, 7 or 8, like any good Hong Kong kid would. And later on, I picked up the guitar and played in a Linkin Park cover band in secondary school and in church. And I decided afterwards, at the end of secondary school, to YOLO and pursue music further for my undergraduate degree, where I went to the UK to study creative music technology. And the reasoning behind that decision was that I figured that music was really the only thing I'm good at anyway. And if I'm going to be poor doing something, it might as well be something that I'm good at and something that I love. And so I really enjoyed my time in the UK when I did my creative music technology degree. It was a degree that encompassed so many different things, super broad. We would go from learning how to write songs all the way to record, mastering, all the way to performance, live sound and stuff. And honestly, I think not many people can say that they did their music performance exam in a pub playing to random uncles who were confused as to why their pub became this young people place where kids were playing set after set after set, rather nervously, I might add. And so after I finished my degree, because I was very homesick, I came back to Hong Kong and I managed to land a job in Sony Music Asia. And while that was happening, I was also playing in bands in the indie scene in my spare time. And so I think my experience in Sony was great in terms of working with people. The people at the company were really great. I'm still in touch with many of them today, and I look back fondly on my experience dealing with my colleagues, which was very pleasant. But I think that it was the system itself, the mainstream music industry system, that wore me down, and I didn't feel like it was really about the music at all. And music was really made into a commodity that was there to be bought and sold and to be marketed, and people weren't like listeners, but they were like customers. They were kind of like a data point, especially with my role where I was dealing a lot with Spotify's streaming analytics, streaming data, and things like that. And so at that point, my then girlfriend, now wife, saw at the time that I wasn't very happy with my job itself, and that we looked around and she saw, my other friends who were doing PhDs. They seemed to be pretty happy. They were basically their own boss. They were able to research whatever they wanted, and they enjoyed doing that. So she suggested it to me and said like, hey, that means you are a saliva guy. You have a lot of things to say. You always are saying stuff. So how about instead of saying it, you turn it into words, and then you get a degree out of it, and you can, in the process, write about what you want to write. And so she suggested that to me. And immediately my first thought was to write about the local indie scene that I was a part of. And since no one else was doing it, I figured that, hey, you know what? My English is not too shabby. It might as well be me to do it, right? And so I applied, and long story short, I wanted to go straight into PhD. That didn't work out. I went into a master's, MPhil instead. And looking back, I think that was actually the right way to go. I had more time to learn the ropes and do all the reading that I needed to do, and it wasn't rushed in any way, which I think was worth it, worth the time, you know. And also, you know, applying for a postgraduate degree gave me that idea, you know, what if I went into academia? It sparked a desire in me to actually find a way to allow people with interests like myself, a lot of the friends that I knew, to be able to pursue a degree like the one that I did in the UK, but in Hong Kong, that didn't exist at the time. I thought that a lot of the other indie musicians that I knew, they were smart, they were very talented, incredibly talented, way more than I. But unfortunately, there was no sort of path to do a degree similar to that one in Hong Kong. That was, you know, a bachelor's degree program, encompassed all those production techniques and all those different aspects of music, a broad spectrum, and contemporary as well. And so I thought, you know, if I could, I don't know, change the system from inside, perhaps that would be great. And so, yeah, I'm actually in my 4th year of my PhD and my 1st year without funding. Ha ha ha. So I'm left to fend for myself financially right now, doing research for someone else as well, to pay the bills. But enough about myself. Now I'm going to start talking about my experience with IASPM-SEA. And so I first joined IASPM with Australia New Zealand's chapter, actually, because it was the first IASPM conference I attended. And, you know, when you attend a conference, you have to join the society or organization. And, you know, the first one that I applied for and was accepted was Australia New Zealand. So, Lara, I've told you this many times, but yeah, I'm sorry about that, but that is just the story, okay? And so the story of my first time at Southeast Asia chapter at the IASPM-SEA was actually one of the wildest 2 weeks of my life. Okay, so 2022, December. The whole world has basically opened up after the pandemic, except for Hong Kong and China, I guess. You know, we still had stupid quarantine rules, you know, where if you flew out and you came back again, you'd have to quarantine in a hotel for 3 days. Hotel bookings were really hard to get. They're expensive and all that stuff. Basically, it meant that people like me were not able to travel. So many conferences, including the Australia New Zealand one that I attended, I couldn't actually attend in person. I had to do it online. And that was also a funny story because the fire alarm apparently went off in the university in, I think it was Australia. But yeah, basically all the audience, we watched all the audience walk out in the middle of our presentation. That was a funny story. But anyway, so December 22. All of a sudden, all the quarantine requirements are dropped. And that means we're allowed to travel. Immediately, my friends in a band that I've been following and supporting, and I was their guitar tech, actually, they suddenly said, okay, we're going to Taiwan. We're touring. We need to play our new album to all our friends in Taiwan. And so they plan a small tour to Taipei in February 2023, and then I get the acceptance for IASPM Southeast Asia after I booked my flight to go to Penang, where the conference for 2023 was. And so I followed my friends on tour to Taipei at the end of February. It's tiring. We sleep on the floor, we sleep on sofas, and it's exhilarating. And it's me living the dream of going on tour vicariously through my friends, I might add. And so I go to the tour, I come back to Hong Kong, I get a few days break, and then I fly out early, like an 8 a.m. flight to KL the following week, and I visit my parents, just, you know, as an aside. And then they drive me up to Penang for the conference afterwards. And the plan originally was for me, of course, to attend the whole conference. I wouldn't miss conferences typically. You know, it's the first in-person conference that I would have actually attended. But just before booking my tickets, Hong Kong's largest music festival announces that they're back. The first one since 2018, which is a huge deal. And, because the borders have only just opened up, it takes time to book international bands. There's loads of local bands in the lineup, and it just so happens to be on the same week as IASPM-SEA Penang 2023. And so, as a good field worker and good ethnographer, I prioritize my field work, of course. I attend the first day of the conference in Penang. I enjoy myself a little bit too much and get to know loads of cool people, and I will talk about that a little bit later. I stay out after dinner with everyone else way too late. I sleep for, I don't even know how many hours I slept for. I think I slept for like 2 or 3 hours. I wake up at 3 a.m., 3:30 to go to the airport for my flight back to Hong Kong through Kuala Lumpur. I arrive home in Hong Kong at noon. I pack up all my stuff, all my camera gear, all my recorders and all that stuff. I didn't get to I told myself I will take a 2-hour nap. I did not. I left home again at 2 p.m. to the festival. I destroy my legs at the festival. And it's a 3-day festival, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's my first time being in a crowd where people are simultaneously moshing and crying. And that's a whole other story, by the way. Good story, by the way. And then right after the festival, I come down with COVID for the third time on the Monday after the festival. Crazy 2 weeks. And so I remember not really knowing what to expect at IASPM-SEA for the first time when I went. I was surprised, to be honest, that they accepted my paper because it had nothing to do with Southeast Asia and it was only talking about the Hong Kong indie scene. They're open-minded, inclusive and welcoming, and they're not looking for only scholarship that's exclusively about Southeast Asia. And to me, that was very surprising to me. I had attended conferences before about the Hong Kong studies, where all the papers are about Hong Kong, and I guess Australia and New Zealand did accept my paper as well, but it was a whole panel only about Hong Kong, and most of the other papers in there was all scholarship from Australia and New Zealand, obviously. But yeah, the conference also only had one room, and that was very surprising to me, having attended conferences where there was at least 2, if not more than that. It was a very warm atmosphere. Everyone was super friendly. It was a very cozy vibe there. And people also seemed to know each other very well. I was kind of going there without knowing anyone really, and it seemed like everyone was kind of like, hey, how are you doing, it's been a long time, and everyone seemed like they were old friends. It was a tight-knit community kind of an atmosphere, which was really cool to me. And actually another thing that surprised me a lot was that very quickly people came to speak to me and to strike up conversations with me, and it was really striking how friendly people were at the conference to a newbie like myself, and people seemed very eager to get to know me and introduce me to other people as well, especially Lara, who was trying very hard to get me to change my membership from SEA to from Australia and New Zealand. I had an experience presenting online at other conferences, mainly in the West, online obviously, and to Western scholars, and Hong Kong having undergone many changes socially and politically since the 2019 protests, the crackdown afterwards, and the pandemic. The indie scene was very much shaped by these events, and my experiences there obviously were shaped very much by this new political and social atmosphere, and these changes. And presenting at those other conferences, people would listen to this and then they would sympathize. They would express their concern and their care, which was very moving in and of itself, obviously, as someone from Hong Kong. But the thing that I found most striking, the most impactful thing to me, having presenting at SEA alongside other scholars and chatting with them between the sessions afterwards, the truest word that I would describe it is solidarity. It wasn't just the type of sympathy that comes from well-meaning individuals who haven't really been through the similar traumas or events, but it's a type of togetherness in the fact that many of us have come from places that have been through similar hardships or are going through similar oppression still. And, the type of empathy that is shown between the people at the conference, to myself and to everyone else is a two-way affair, that feeling that I had was something that I most remember about Penang 2023. And it's because of that I felt like I had to be a part of this community and give back. And I definitely needed to attend all 3 days next time. And that I felt that there were much bigger things at play than just scholars presenting papers, going through the motions as sometimes conferences feel. And so fast forwarding to IASPM 2024, Bangkok. I applied as usual, and this time my paper had something to do with Southeast Asia because I was exploring how the indie scene in Hong Kong was forging new relationships and alliances with scenes across Southeast Asia, East Asia, and I was arguing that, hey, maybe this is a new development in the way that Hong Kong is positioning itself, how Hong Kong sees itself. I won't go through the nitty-gritty details of that. There's a little bit too much theory, and how long have I used? I'm not going to use too much of your time anyway. And so I went to Bangkok. I flew out, and I specifically made a point of flying out a little bit earlier the day before the conference so that I can not just get settled, but mainly that I can spend a little bit of time with the executive committee that was putting on the conference, since I had been in contact with them after Penang the previous year. And like a very good Hong Kong raised kid, I brought souvenirs. I brought some egg tarts that I bought at the airport, not the best egg tarts in the world by any means. And I met up with them the evening before the conference. They were having dinner. They were doing a bunch of last minute stuff, as most people who organize conferences would. There's always last minute stuff to do. It was a really great time further getting to know them. And at that point, I had been to IASPM USA or Global, the biannual conference that all the chapters join in Minneapolis in 2024. And so, I shared some of my experiences about that, and they were curious as well. And so, it was a good time, good chat, good time just chilling and hanging out, getting to know each other. And I offered, to help however way I could. And so for Bangkok, it was still a one-room conference. It was a bigger room, which was encouraging. And the committee actually quite quickly enlisted my help to, I think, do MC work. So, just MCing in between the sessions. I had a little bit of fun with the microphone. Sorry, guys. That's what I do. It is what I'm doing now. You did this to yourself, really. But it was a really good time, listening to all the different presentations. That time I also chaired a session or two, I think. I think it was that time last year in Bangkok where I really plugged in even more with the community. This time I was spending 3 days with them instead of just the one. I was seeing familiar faces instead of getting to know, not knowing anyone there. And that made a huge difference. And of course, also getting to know the new people who were not in Penang or that I had not met in Penang that time last year. Another thing that I really, really loved about the Bangkok conference was Sankti, who brought 3 of his undergraduate students who had research projects to present. I thought that was incredibly cool to see undergraduates presenting at such a typically postgraduate or above conference. And they did such a good job. And to me, as someone who cares about research having relevance beyond academia, I think this has to be encouraged. And in fact, this year in Taipei, 2 of those kids, I sound really old, they have come back not only with papers, but organized panels. They've brought their friends too. And I think this is something that has to be encouraged, not just in IASPM Southeast Asia, but way beyond. More people need to realize that they have something to say. They have knowledge that they can share with the rest of the world, and that knowledge is valuable. I personally am invested in public scholarship. That's what academics call it. Where, I have a different podcast called Kong Indie, where we take our research, not dumb it down. Okay, we rephrase everything. We stop using those stupid big words. We use in Cantonese we say yanhua. It's like human language. We talk about indie music scholarship, but in an accessible way. And I think that, introducing research and presenting research and discourses between different scholars and themselves is something that's very precious. And I think that more conferences should prioritize this sort of a thing. And hey, it might encourage some younger scholars to pursue research. It could encourage more senior scholars to pull in more of their students and encourage them to present their ideas and to give it a shot. And so it was throughout that conference that, hanging out with the executive committee and the huddle group that was helping with the conference, I really felt that sense of solidarity and teamwork and community that they were trying to build. It wasn't just academic organization that's trying to, further each other's career, which of course is important, but more than that, I felt like they were really focused on building a community more than just some sort of material organization that's trying to, publish stuff, trying to do conferences to puff up your CV or whatever. It was really about getting the community together and getting people to get to know each other and know each other's work and explore different paths where people could collaborate and further bring Southeast Asian popular music studies and beyond, of course, to a wider audience and to wider relevance. And so kind of impromptu during the AGM, I think, I kind of decided, okay, you know what? They're going to be nominating people to do the executive committee, to become part of the executive committee. And so I was like, okay, you know what? I'll just throw my hat in the ring. I did put my hand up to do back then, well, it was called webmaster, and then I think it's called something different now, but basically all the digital stuff, all the marketing, social media, website, all the nitty-gritty information stuff that comes during the conference. And so I put my hand up for that, and I think Rachel was running against me. And honestly, I didn't really mind who won, I think we made a deal. We were like, okay, whoever wins, the other person is gonna run support for the next conference. And so Rachel won, and I was like, okay, you're better at social media. I think that's what we said back then. And so I was good at, web design. I was good at Excel and all that stuff. So I'll just do all the admin stuff. And so, the main point is that I felt like I needed to give back to the community, and this was my way of doing that. And that brings us to this year, 2025, where, I was very, very happy to hear that the conference was going to be in Taipei. First of all, super close to me. Second of all, I love Taipei. I love Taiwanese food. And in a fortunate turn of events, me and my wife became parents in May of 2025, and that was kind of why I could not attend the conference this year, and we were also moving house and all that stuff. And so because of that, I was unable to attend, but I did promise the executive committee, I am still fully here. I'm here to help. You just let me know what you need. I managed to use all of my Excel skills that I learned from the record label, working at the record label. I helped them automate a lot of the behind the scenes systems, especially when it comes to abstract review, aggregating all the participant data, when you sign up, you give them all the information, and I put them all into a spreadsheet. I make sure everything is nice and tidy. Everything can be pulled up very easily and organized very easily when it comes to scheduling and things like that. And so that was what I Did the most, I think. I also helped out, in other small ways. I think I updated the website. If you are currently at the Taipei conference and you got a gift bag, which looks amazing. I am so jealous of that gift bag. It looks so nice. I wish I could design a gift bag like that, but inside the gift bag, there is a little baggage tag that I designed and incorporated a little bit of the local committee's design. I hope as a homage, it was such a nice design. I had to incorporate some of it. And also, if you are a winner of the bingo game, you will receive a prize that I also helped to design. Yeah, and so that takes us up to today, where I am here in Hong Kong, suffering massive FOMO, watching all the groups alight with people sending photos and talking about, what are we doing? Where are we going for lunch at the conference? And then I'm sure the selfies will come pretty soon. But yeah, that is my experience with IASPM Southeast Asia. It is a truly unique group of people from, super intellectual types who have big theories about music and the place they're from, to super interesting, cool musicians like Asmil, who somehow finds the time to tour Asia, playing his music while being a lecturer at a university. I don't know how he does that. And so, yeah, for example, one of these connections that we forged was I'm helping to bring Asmil to Hong Kong in September to do a lecture performance at my university, and potentially afterwards a living room concert at a local gig organizer that I know. So it was these kinds of engagements and entanglements that IASPM-SEA facilitated. And honestly, I really don't want to sound like I'm hard selling or anything here, but you need to be here in person to feel the community spirit, to feel the vibe, and trust me, you will be able to make friends if you try even just a little bit here at the IASPM-SEA community. And so, yeah, that has been my story with IASPM-SEA. I hope that it may continue for many more years to come. And so let's also hear the thoughts of some other attendees of the Bangkok conference from last year.
It's been fantastic. I think the variety and breadth of the different kind of areas, I think that speaks of its interdisciplinarity.
It was super interesting. I'm so happy I came because I've learned so many new things.
For me, it's like I'm the most outsider of the whole thing, because I'm a theatre person, but I feel like I'm welcome here, and now I feel like I want to come here again next year.
It's amazing. I really like the community. It's very welcoming, very inspiring talks. The vibe overall was super positive, so I really enjoyed this conference.
And hopefully the next episode of Scenic Solidarities will not just be an unhinged monologue by myself. We will probably have other guests on board from the IASPM-SEA community to discuss their own stories with scholarship, their own work, and beyond. And so, if you are in Taipei right now, please attend as many sessions as you can. The local committee have put in so much effort in organizing all the itinerary in the conference, and eat all the food you can for me. For Scenic Solidarities, a podcast by IASPM Southeast Asia, I have been Jonathan Chan. Thank you for listening. Have a good one, and see you later.